Want an easy way to see if you could save money on car insurance? Geico gives you 3. Call 1-800-947-AUTO. Go online to geico.com or stop by the Geico office nearest you. 3 ways you could save 15% or more.
This is the worst of the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugatz podcast.
Back and better than ever.
Yeah.
Is ours now. Can we have it? Can we have it? People are just crying. We are not the show to follow this. Did someone at ESPN not know what they were doing? Like, we should not be entrusted with the moments after, ESPN Studios just went dark with Mike Golick and Mike Greenberg's family in the studio.
Yeah.
And I was looking at it, and I was moved by it, and Stugatz was moved by it, and Mike said that was weird. It was emotional, and it was intimate. Stugatz claims on the way in here that he was crying.
There's no claim. I was crying at around 8:14 this morning. They had Bill Curry on. If you follow the show the way I follow the show, you know Bill Curry is a big part of their show, and they had him on one last time, and I had real tears streaming down my face in my car 8:14 this morning.
Yo, chicken time.
No, wait a minute. Hold on a second.
Oh, wait, we're both getting it?
We might both be getting it. Hold on. Hold on.
Man.
Everyone slow down. Everyone calm down. Everyone put the chickens back in the back. Rush them back into the cage, please. Please, back into the cage. Kentucky Fried Chicken. First of all, let's backtrack for a second. If you don't know what we're talking about.
You're happy they're gone!
If you don't know what we're talking about, how did that happen? I thought I'd close that cage.
Who's happy?
So you were trying to break them up from day one. You wanted that job. I will not be censored.
All right. So Mike and Mike, after 17 years, pioneers, Mike Golick and Mike Greenberg. Sports radio pioneers, a sports radio show I don't believe has ever had, period, the national acclaim that one does, the national popularity, the national reach, the national name. I don't think it has a peer in terms of being its own economy. And ESPN is building a playground on the campus to remember their 17 years of service in the name of family, because what they were, and one of the reasons they were so sponsorship friendly, and one of the reasons they were such a safe place for commissioners to go and talk about their sport, is because that was a family friendly show that not only pioneered, but was a huge business model in a sea of acid that rose above the sea of sports radio acid to have a good name, a sports radio show that had a good name. And no matter how you think it aged and whether you think it was trendy enough at the end or whether we can make fun, because we don't let anything age with dignity, make fun that it was yesterday's radio or bland radio, I think respect should be paid this day to these men who did something that gave off family, didn't have scandal, didn't have to have people suspended because of radio hijinks or because of ratings or grabbing for things, attention, and they just built a hugely functional content model that represented Disney and ESPN well for 17 years of daily live radio. It's hard to do without getting in trouble. It's hard to do without having stains. It's hard to do to stay relevant for that long. Television marriages, radio marriages have so much ego in them that it's hard for those things to last for 17 years. Mike and the Mad Dog in New York ended up breaking up at the end.
It was 19 years. That's a fun.
But I don't think that's a fine for me. It's if I get names wrong, it's a fine. How is it a fine if I got years wrong?
I feel like on their big day, and you're speaking beautifully about them, and I'm sure they appreciate it, but, I mean, on their big day, you should probably know it's 19 years, not 17 years.
That's true. I should probably know that, but that's not a fine.
Oh.
I don't get fined for that. You get fined $1 for calling out fines for me that are not fines.
That backfired.
But you're right. I should have known that it was 19 years. I cut off the last 2 years at the end. I don't know why I did that.
You got change for a $5 over there?
I do, actually.
Oh, nice. All right.
$3 in fines right here.
There's another $1 over here. It's the $1 I got from selling a toasted almond bar yesterday. There's a 5 here, and now I got 4. We're good. You're right. Listen, I'm telling you, I cried when Mike and the Mad Dog broke up, and I cried today this morning. It wasn't because they're breaking up. I've known that they're going to be breaking up for a while. It's Bill Curry was so moving on the show, and that's what moved me to tears. So, but good luck to those guys. Golick will still be on the radio. Greeny will have a new show coming up. I'm wondering here, because you're right, our boss, everyone's boss, John Skipper, said that they're going to build a playground in honor of Mike and Mike because of their emphasis on family over 18 years. And I'm wondering when we're done, when we hang it up. Well, this tweet says 18 years, and that's from our PR department, and Chris LaPlaca, that's a fine. But I am wondering, what do you think when we hang it up? And I have no idea when that day is going to come. What do you think John Skipper's going to leave us?
All right, so it took you all of 5 minutes to bring it back around to us?
Hold up. 2 years ago, they had their 15th anniversary. What is going on here?
17 years.
Pick a year.
Was it 17, 18, or 19 years?
Well, they're doing interviews celebrating their 19 years together. However, 2 years ago, they definitely had their 15th anniversary.
All right. This is an egregious mistake by everyone at ESPN that we have just uncovered through our investigative work. Speaking of investigative work, many of you may just be joining us, so you may not have heard this story. Don Van Natta and Seth Wickersham are reporting for ESPN, the magazine, some of the details on this Jerry Jones-Roger Goodell fight. And all you need to know, there are a number of details in this story. You should go read it. But Jerry Jones is quoted barking at Roger Goodell after Roger Goodell informs him of Ezekiel Elliott's suspension. And there's a pause on the phone. And Jerry Jones says to Roger Goodell, according to this report, quote, "I'm going to come after you with everything I have. If you think Bob Kraft came after you hard, Bob Kraft is a P word compared to what I'm going to do to you." That is Jerry Jones.
Exactly the way you imagine Jerry Jones to be.
That is exactly how I imagined that threat would sound in Southern fried drawl.
I do have ice in a cocktail glass and a stir.
You can hear the cubes,
For sure. In a glass that costs more than your house, or is it a goblet? Is it just a straight bejeweled?
Snifter?
Is it? No, I got it being a bejeweled goblet, maybe a human skull.
No, I got Jerry just straight glass, like old school, expensive glass, but just
crystal, like crystal.
Yeah, like nice crystal, a couple of ice cubes, the Johnny Walker Blue, and that's it.
Yeah, whatever was poured in that drink was poured out of a crystal decanter.
Man, I don't agree with you guys at all. I think it's either a bejeweled chalice of some sort or Wade Phillips's skull. And I realize Wade's still with us, but, Jerry's got a lot of money.
Yeah, we didn't say it was a severed skull. Right. Just drilled a hole in it.
Guillermo, put it on the poll. What does Jerry Jones drink fine beverages out of? Crystal, a bejeweled chalice, a human skull.
We can't. Snifter's such a fun word.
All right, snifter. Put
Snifter's
snifter. Fine.
Word.
Put snifter up there. It just seems like it pales compared to human skull, but okay. Limp in with your snifter. See if I care. You think I think the snifter's going to win? Like, go ahead. Limp in with your snifter. See if you can knock out my bejeweled chalice and my my human skull. By the way, congratulations, Mike and Mike.
Don Le Batard.
Ooh. Guillermo, sassy.
Stugats.
You're sexy when you're sassy.
This is the Don Le Batard Show with the Stugats on ESPN Radio.
I believe the sports fan has gotten much smarter. In 2017, I believe the sports fan is smarter than he or she has ever been. But when this person writes in, it is interesting that Stanton won MVP, and if he were removed from the team, they would still be a bad team. Most home runs, maybe, but MVP is a stretch. Did Joey Votto finish second?
Yeah, close second. Closest vote ever.
Fourth closest.
Fourth. Nailed it.
Joey Votto also played for a losing team, but I feel like these folks have been smoked out of sports. No, am I wrong? By advanced metrics, by like baseball, we can do the measurements now, and we understand that you can measure someone's value without tying it to winning. Like, have we not smoked those people out, or no? We have not done that yet in 2017. People who care about baseball are still doing home run, RBI, and
I'm still here.
Yeah, but
you haven't smoked me. I prefer the MVP coming from a guy on a winning team.
I know, but when I tell you Stanton won the MVP, you don't object to it in any way, do you? In any way?
Yeah, but I think that just comes with age and me not caring as much as I used to about the MVP. Like, okay, Stanton won the MVP. I'm happy because he's down here and he's been on the show and we like Giancarlo Stanton. I'd prefer – you're talking about value, and I think value should be assigned to a guy in a winning team. I've always thought that, and I'll always think that.
Okay, so we haven't smoked him out.
Nope.
One of them is sitting right next to me, right here.
Yeah, but he says he's still there, but I don't really believe he still is. How often is Sugats consuming baseball?
I care about
World Series.
I care about it enough. I mean, I watch the postseason, and I watch a handful of Met games every year.
Well, but I do think these things are proportional. I do think ignorance combined that not caring produces the ignorance. And when you care about a sport or you invest emotionally in anything, you try to learn more about it. And so the people now watching baseball seem to understand. The people who care the most about baseball seem to understand that there are new measurements involved that allow you to isolate performance and tell you how great Giancarlo Stanton is or Joey Votto is, independent of not only what's on their team or how bad their team is, but based on ballpark and who they're facing and a million other factors. Like, we're able to measure players better than we've ever been able to do that as fans.
I mean, he was number one in the National League in OPS. He was number one in the National League of WAR.
That's why he won the MVP. He won the MVP because I believe the ground has shifted on all the analytics in baseball in a way. Hell, man, it's never been more evident than when Miguel Cabrera almost lost the MVP when winning the Triple Crown.
Right.
Because people were using the Mike Trout numbers of WAR and all the advanced metrics.
I'm just saying, when it's close, Dan, like Paul Goldschmidt, it was close. The OPS is close. The WAR is relatively close. Charlie Blackmon's another. Nolan Arenado from Colorado. Those are guys from good teams. Where if it's close, I prefer the MVP to come from a team that won. That's all.
Okay, but what the voters just told you, we're done doing it that way.
Yes, they have.
Method Man is going to join us in 10 minutes. He called in here at 4:30 his time because he's very eager to make his picks. 4:30 in the morning his time, he called in. It was 7:30 here. There was some sort of mix-up. And so now he's going to be here in 10 minutes to make his football picks. I think it's a fifth consecutive week where he has survived Colin Cowherd's picks.
Paul Goldschmidt's WAR was 5.8. Stanton's was 7.56. They were not close at all, Stu guys.
That's close enough.
You read the internet wrong.
Well, no, I said the OPS was close, and it was. I mean, was it not? Goldschmidt's was 966, and Stanton was 1,007.
You owe
close enough.
You owe some money.
All right, I'll put some money.
At the start of the segment, you said it was the closest MVP race ever.
Yeah,
it was the fourth closest.
Right. You also said Stanton led the NL in OPS, and Votto had a higher OPS.
I didn't say that. I said Stanton led the National League in OPS and WAR. How much do I owe? Just tell me how much I owe.
You just denied saying something and then confirmed that you said it right after.
He said something about Votto. Play back the tape. I didn't say anything about Votto.
No, you said Stanton.
Listen, here's $10, and let's just move on, okay?
Pay that man his money.
I want to change it.
Wait a minute. What do you mean? No. You can't do that.
Well,
you can't run off a problem with here's $10, make my problems go away, and then throw in on the back end, I want some change. That's like Jerry Jones says to Roger Goodell, I'm going to get you with everything I have except some of the things that I, really care about that I won't use during these measures. Like, what do you mean?
All right, keep the $10. There's at least 5 fines.
You can't end the complaints about how you botched the segment by throwing $10. You got to say keep the change. You can't. You don't say give me back my change.
Help me out here. Is 7.6 and 5.8? Is that not close?
No, not really.
Really?
No, that's a big difference. That's a big difference in war.
I mean, it's less than 2, whatever they're called, wars.
It's the weekend, and you want to go out. If you go out looking like that, people will laugh at you. Do not get laughed at. Use the tools from the good folks at Dollar Shave Club. You realize that came after I said, are these people still out there? And right there next to me is Stugatz in just a dumpster fire of ignorance. Like, not even listening. Votto, Stanton, reading stats. He doesn't know what any of them mean. He's just gibbering. That's what's following the closing of Mike and Mike. The shuttering of Mike and Mike's doors. That's how we respect their legacy.
You think Golick knows what these things are? Come on. He knows what war is? It's 7.6, 5.8. It's in the ballpark.
Dan Le Batard.
I'm telling you, we are good here. Trust me. I've never let you down.
Stugatz.
It's like living a life. Imagine living your life, and every time you take a step, you know you might step on a landmine. That's my life. I'm married to a minefield, and he doesn't know that he's a minefield. It's just like, trust me, Dan, we got this, while cleaning the chocolate out of his teeth with his tongue.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugatz on ESPN Radio.
Method Man is getting on a plane here. He has been gracious enough to spend some time with us. How much time do we have with you here, Meth, before you got to get out of here? Should we get right to the games and then the conversation until the plane takes off?
Yeah, we could do that.
All right, let's do the games first here.
And now it is time for Celebrity Prognosticator. Let's win some money.
Eagles at Cowboys. Method Man, by the way, he's really bailed us out here. He was 3-2 last week. He's had a winning week every week. Eagles at Cowboys. Cowboys +4. Who you got?
I'm going with the Eagles.
Rams at Vikings. Vikings -2.5. Who you got?
Rams.
You're threatening, by the way, Big Boy. Big Boy had an 8-week run on the show. It's the longest in the history of the show. Ravens at Packers. Packers +2. Who you got?
I'm going to go with the, God, they both stink.
That's right. That is the correct analysis.
What are you taking?
The Ravens.
Washington at Saints. Saints -7.5. Who you got?
Saints.
Patriots at Oakland. Patriots against Oakland in Mexico City. Oakland is +7. Who you got?
I'm going with the Pats.
What's going on with you here? Where are you flying to? Are you almost off the air? What's happening? How much time do we have with you?
Something happened with the airplane where it was 98 degrees on the plane. They didn't turn the AC on, so we got a few minutes before they start boarding. Okay. Actually boarding, and I have my boarding pass in my phone, so I can work it out. It's not a problem.
All right,
I think you meant off the ground there, Dan, not off the air.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah. Yes, thank you, Stu.
Sure. I'm actually sitting here with Redman. Say peace, Doc. Peace, peace. What's going on?
Oh, wait a minute. Where are you guys going?
Whoa.
We're going home. We're coming from a High Times after party.
Of course you are.
Wow.
A High Times after party.
I just want details on that, if possible.
Okay, yeah. How about the details on the High Times after party?
It was pretty dope. We performed at the Brooklyn Bowl for a bunch of High Times VIPs. Yeah.
What is a place that Meth and Red have performed together where both of you have looked at each other and been like, this is the coolest, man. This is us at the top of the mountaintop sharing the dream together as friends.
I couldn't hear the question because I think they're about to start boarding. I love you dudes, man. If I win again, I'll be there next week with even more info for you.
All right, we'll talk to you. All right, very good.
Right.
We'll see you later, Meth. We'll talk to you.
Meth.
Oh, man, I wanted to talk to Redman.
That's where we were headed, right?
That's where we were headed, right.
No
if
doubt.
I had 4 more minutes, we were going to ask him to hand the phone over to Redman. That's where we were headed.
Yep. Unfortunate.
Drop the Mic airs Tuesday nights, 10:30 p.m. on TBS if you want to check it out. If you don't know what we do there, every week we pick games against Colin Cowherd to prove that nobody knows anything. We do this with random celebrities. He checks with wise guys, film experts. We've been doing it for years when we were at the company together. This is not meant to embarrass Colin Cowherd. Well, actually it is, but we were doing it when he was at the company too. And so we just go with random people like John Lovitz.
Yeah.
And if they defeat Colin Cowherd that week or don't lose to him, if they tie him, then they return for another week. And Method Man has now made it 5 straight weeks.
He has bailed us out because the other guys were awful. Richard Lewis, everyone was dreadful. But our celebrities are 26-19-1 in large part because of Method Man, and Colin is 26-19.
We're ahead of him. No, it sounds like we're tied. Yeah, we're tied.
The fine.
It sounds like it's not a fine. That's a fine for you. That's $1. So the Celtics last night beat the Warriors, and Kyrie Irving was awful all game, except for at the end when it mattered. And then he got all the points in the last 5 minutes of the game.
Well, he did. Jason Tatum was pretty good late in that game as well. He was not great the entire game. I was amazed by the Celtics defense. I hadn't watched him play this year. I watched that entire game last night, and it was a fun game, and I was amazed that the Celtics, who were down 17 in that game, were able to come back. But more amazing is a 41-point second half for Golden State, which is just incredible when you consider how good they are offensively. And the Celtics have a lot of length on defense. They do. All their guys are like 6'5", in between 6'5" and 6'10". They're lengthy, they're long, and they gave the Warriors a problem last night. That was surprising to see, especially when you're up 17.
They have a 0% chance of beating the Warriors in a 7-game series, but last night makes it interesting. Last night gives you something to talk about. The Warriors were up 17 for a reason, and over a 7-game series, they will bury the Celtics. But you are right. The Celtics are coming. The Celtics are better. If they could do it with Isaiah Thomas, Brad Stevens made Isaiah Thomas into what he was. Isaiah Thomas was on the trash heap. They made Isaiah Thomas a 30-point scorer, and now they have one. They don't have to make one. They have a guy who could get them all those big points. They are now going to do with Kyrie Irving all the things they did with Isaiah Thomas.
I wasn't thinking in terms of them winning the championship as I watched that game last night. I was thinking, wow, can this team beat the Cavaliers? Because
I thought you guys were a little dismissive of that question of LeBron with the worst defense of the league against Kyrie against the best defense in the league. I thought you guys were a little dismissive of that question.
I'm thoroughly impressed because how many teams can say they beat the Warriors without playing a good game? They were good defensively, but their stars, most of their players, you look through that box score, they didn't play well.
Yeah. The Celtics have now won 14 straight. It is the soonest. This is a tribute to Brad Stevens and that team. We're always told that these things take a minute. No matter who joins the team, they traded some key components there. That team was Avery Bradley,
yes,
and Jay Crowder. They trade Kelly Olynyk.
Isaiah,
all the guys that played together. They traded them. We're always told it takes a minute. And in the history of the sport, the last time this has happened is 1973, where a team this early in the season has it figured out to win this many games in a row. And last night, this has got to be very exciting for Boston. It's that you come out right out of the box, right, with a huge disappointment. Gordon Hayward, your big free agent acquisition, is hurt. Do you realize that if they were doing this with Gordon Hayward, we'd be having a conversation right now of, they can beat anybody?
Yes.
If they were doing the same thing with another star, we'd be legitimizing them a lot more than we are right now.
I understand what you're saying about all the players moving out, but those guys were role guys, and they had younger role players fit in to that. It might have taken them longer to get to where they needed to be in terms of their playing level if Hayward were on that team, because they haven't really changed their identity from last year. It's just you've replaced Isaiah Thomas with a much better player in Kyrie Irving.
You know what? I heard Legler say that right when it happened, and I laughed at him. When he was saying this might be a good thing, turned out to be a good thing for the Celtics because it will allow Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum to kind of find themselves, and then Gordon Hayward comes back next year. I laughed at it, but it's exactly what's happening right now.
What is happening in Boston that is cool and fun is the Boston Celtics have maxed out, overachieved on all of their talent for the last couple of years. Now, the Boston Celtics have legitimate talent. It's not Brad Stevens having to play a shell game to win 55 games with an assortment of debris from around the league. Now it's the guys they want, the plan they want, the draft picks they want, growing into men, And so that team has been built correctly. They did it right. They traded Garnett and Pierce at a time it would still be unpopular. Rondo, everything. They blew it up. They suffered for a little while. They got all the draft picks from the greedy New Jersey owner.
They still have a few.
Right, who wanted to make a splash, and so he got a bunch of old stars. Brooklyn, excuse me. He was the New Jersey owner. They moved to Brooklyn.
All right.
Wait a minute.
Well,
I feel like I'm okay there.
I'm not saying anything because these, I call out a fine and it backfires. I mean, suddenly I'm paying money.
If Boston's got a reason to be excited about basketball for the next decade, that's a pretty cool feeling.
Catch more of the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugats, 10 to 1 Eastern on ESPN Radio and ESPNU.
Hi, everyone. Stugats here. Support for the Dan Le Batard Show podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Chances are you're confident when it comes to your work, your hobbies, and your life. Rocket Mortgage gives you that same level of confidence when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. With Rocket Mortgage, you can apply simply and understand fully so you can mortgage confidently. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Stugotz, STUGOTZ, equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLSconsumeraccess.org number 3030.
Dan Le Batard.
What did he say? What did Eli Manning do now?
Well, it
doesn't matter.
If you just look at the story as it is right now, there's no doubt. If you just look at that information, that Eli Manning did something nefarious. He told someone that it was game-worn stuff that he was signing, and it wasn't.
Stugats.
Guillermo, put it on the poll. 2 questions on the poll here at Le Batard Show. Are you stunned that Stugats just used the word nefarious? And are you stunned that Stugats just used the word nefarious correctly?
Yes, yes.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugats on ESPN Radio.
ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Customers who switch to Progressive save an average of $500. Call or click today and find out if they could save you hundreds on your car insurance. Don Van Natta going to join us in just a second here on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Talk about Jerry Jones and Roger Goodell. Here's your SportsCenter update. While the White House said President Donald Trump will host collegiate sports championship teams Friday in Washington, the South Carolina women's basketball team will not be among them as they have declined their invitation. The Arizona Cardinals have signed Larry Fitzgerald to a 1-year extension. And finally, you could buy a tea that's harvested in panda poop. It costs $3,500 for 50 grams.
Hold on a minute. What's more expensive, the panda poo tea or the cat poop coffee? What's more expensive? Put it on the poll, Guillermo.
Huh.
What's more expensive, panda poo tea or cat poop coffee?
Good question. Up your bourbon game. Larceny Wheated Bourbon is the key. It's award-winning small batch bourbon made with more wheat for a smoother taste. Unlock the smoothness of Larceny Bourbon today. Think wisely, drink wisely. Larceny Bourbon, Bardstown, Kentucky, 46% alcohol by volume. For all the latest headlines and information, tune to the SportsCenter on ESPN Radio all throughout the day.
Panda Poo Tea, and it's not even a contest.
Wow.
Yeah, as Sugat told you, $3,500 for Panda Poo Tea.
For 50 grams, excuse me.
Well, the local currency.
Okay.
Translates to $3,500 US. You get $100 or $500 per round. It varies in between for the cat poop coffee.
Okay, very good. The perfect introduction to Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist Don Van Natta of ESPN, the magazine.
Sorry, Don.
I'm watching on the television here, Stu, guys. This is going to be fun here with Golden State because you realize we're headed toward the next 5 years, Lakers and Celtics both being in this game. Being in the Lakers, if they get LeBron, you're going to have Boston, the Lakers chasing Golden State.
It's a big if on LeBron, though.
Yes,
it has to be because Golden State's out there, and he might be looking at the Celtics.
Yeah,
he could be looking at the Philadelphia for all we know.
Yes, but still, they have a chance to get in. And that's good, too. Sixers, too.
Yeah.
Glory days of basketball. So Don Van Natta and Seth Wickersham did ESPN magazine story on Jerry Jones and Roger Goodell and this fight. A lot of good reporting in it, a lot of things you might not know. So beyond the conference call where Jerry Jones is threatening Roger Goodell with that language, what were the things in the piece, Don, that you thought were interesting?
Well, Dan, before I answer that, I want to tell you guys had a poll about how Jerry Jones drinks his whiskey, I think.
Yes.
What kind of receptacle or what cup? I have the answer to that because I spent the summer with him in 2014. He uses a plastic Cowboys cup with the star on it to drink Johnny Walker Blue.
Wow,
So,
what an upset.
Well, that is an upset.
Yes.
That is an upset. If you did not know that before doing your reporting, would you have guessed from our poll questions, would you have guessed bejeweled goblet, human skull,
crystal,
the finest of crystal, or a snifter? What would you have guessed before you learned the facts for yourself?
The finest of crystal, because he has plenty of that in his mansion in a suburb of Dallas. That would have been my
What was
guess.
the coolest thing in his mansion? Let's talk to you about that. What was like, you were wandering around the mansion. What was the coolest thing in the Jerry Jones mansion?
Oh, I think it was his tap room. He had this cool tap room with a gigantic television, probably 80 inches, maybe even bigger. And what was so funny is you can have any beer in the world in the tap room. He had Miller and Miller Lite were the only two choices because those are the sponsors of the Cowboys. They pay him $15 million a year.
So wait a minute. What does the tap room look like? So you're telling me there are a whole bunch of different taps for every tap? And
No, Dan. There's only two taps. There's only two taps, and it's Miller and Miller Lite. You can have any beer in the world. You can have Guinness, Harp, whatever. Miller and Miller Lite. And I asked them why. Well, it's a sponsor at the stadium.
How many pictures of Jerry Jones, how many portraits or oil paintings of Jerry Jones were there in the house?
No, there were none. I mean, he has Rockwell's. He has a great Norman Rockwell painting that he showed me that he's very, very proud of. It's called Coin Toss. It was the cover of the Saturday Evening Post in 1950. And he bought it because back in 1989, he bought it because Ross Perot told him it was a good investment for $1 million. And I think Christie's has said it's worth about $20 million. And he thought that was the thing he owned that had increased in valuation the most. And I had to point out to him, no, actually, Jerry, it's the Dallas Cowboys that have increased even at a greater greater rate. And he didn't even know that. He thought it was the painting that was the thing that had increased in value the most.
What was the oddest thing in the house?
I love this. The tour of the Jerry Jones mansion. Yeah. What was the thing that Don Van Natta really judged? Like you're looking and that's tacky. That right there doesn't fit with the rest of the feng shui in the room.
Well, he had a photo of Kevin Costner on his wall looking at both him and his wife of 51 years at the time. And he had a very funny line when he was looking at that picture. He said, "Look at my wife there. Look at the way she's looking at that man there. I've never seen her look at me like that."
I can so see him saying
There you go. You could see him seeing that. I also would have guessed the room filled with Barry Switzer and concubines would have been my guess. That one room
well,
where,
you know what,
where he had that.
Dan, there was a room with a lot of pictures, and there's all the great Cowboys are there, and there was only one picture that we could find of Jimmy Johnson. There's plenty of Barry Switzer, but Jimmy Johnson has sort of been airbrushed out of that trophy room, interestingly.
The one picture of Jimmy's like him in the background just happened to be the fringes of the picture.
Yeah, exactly. So it's you do what you want with your own in your house with your history, with your personal history.
Don Van Natta with us again. You should check out this story, ESPN the magazine. The reporting is exceptional, as is the writing, but it'll really take you inside their relationship. Are you buying my theory at all, Don, that Jerry Jones at this point in his life and career gives zero bleeps and he's just looking for a fight? What's the good of all this power if you're not going to fight with it once in a while? That this stuff makes him feel alive is my question.
Well, I think there is some truth to that. Certainly if you're the most powerful guy in the NFL and arguably even in American sports, you certainly want to exercise that power when you get an opportunity to. But I think that Jerry Jones feels very sincere about this in the sense that he thinks that all the business metrics, and Jerry's all about the business, all the business metrics for the NFL have gone south. TV ratings are down, merchandise is down, sponsors are upset, and he puts a lot of this blame on Roger Goodell. He doesn't like the way the league office is being run. And the Ezekiel Elliott matter really was the tipping point for, I think, a lot of frustration that Jones has felt with how much money they're paying Roger Goodell and whether he's really worth it. And, the thing you asked me before, Dan, about what surprised me the most is the fact that there was a conversation that Jerry Jones had in May with Roger Goodell as Ezekiel Elliott was still under investigation by Goodell in the league office. And Jerry came away from that conversation with a very distinct impression that Roger Goodell was not going to suspend Ezekiel Elliott for a single game. And he ran around this summer saying it repeatedly. There's nothing here. There's nothing to domestic violence. allegations. So in August, when he finds that out from Roger Goodell that there's going to be a 6-game suspension, that's when he reacts with that fury of, I'm going to come after you with everything. How is
that even possible, Don? Like, how could that be miscommunicated that poorly? Like, I don't even understand how Jerry could come away with that impression and then have it become what it did.
Well, because interestingly, the timing of this, the context is important. Okay, this call happened in early May. In the conversation, Roger Goodell, our sources told us, said to Jerry, if Ezekiel Elliott puts out a note of contrition here, that might be enough. There really isn't enough here as it stands right now. Jerry, of course, wants to. Now, Roger didn't say he's totally off the hook, but Jerry hears what he wants to hear from that conversation and comes away thinking that is what happened. And I believe he told his family, Stephen, Charlotte, and Jerry Jr. and other people back in Dallas that basically Zeke was off the hook. And remember, just a couple weeks after that conversation at an owners meeting in Chicago, Jerry throws his weight behind Roger Goodell's contract extension. I mean, the timing here is very, very interesting. And unanimously, the 32 owners vote to extend Roger Goodell's contract. And our information is, during that meeting, none of the owners even discussed Roger Goodell's performance, including Jerry Jones. And it's not until this Ezekiel Elliott matter happens and the anthem problems that the league has had since September and a lot of other of these metrics going south this fall that Jerry Jones, goes on an all-out war against Roger Goodell.
Wow, I wonder, based on what you're saying there, Don, I wonder if this has as much to do with the principle of the business combined with didn't want to lose his running back, but then that the added measure here on Jerry Jones is if he's spending the whole summer saying nothing's going to happen publicly, he's also been made to look like a fool, that he's embarrassed. If he's telling his own family members there's nothing here, I talked to Roger, he might just be annoyed because he was made to look like a fool.
I think that's a part of it, Dan. So when the Cowboys training camp opened on July 23rd in Oxnard, California, Jerry Jones was asked about the Ezekiel Elliott case. And he said, I know this case. I know there's nothing here on domestic violence. I predict he's going to be free and clear. He said it in Canton over the Hall of Fame weekend again. And at that point, Roger Goodell had already made the decision quietly that they were going to suspend Ezekiel Elliott 6 games. Goodell didn't tell him over that weekend. He didn't want to spoil Jerry's party, and it wasn't until the following week that Jerry got that news, and he went ballistic.
Don, does he have enough owners on his side to get Goodell out?
I don't think he does right now. I think there's, Stu, I think there's a split 3 ways right now among the owners. I think there's 4 or 5 owners that are firmly in Jerry's corner. Dan Snyder probably doesn't surprise you. The Redskins owner, who's a Jones protege, is one of them. Bob McNair may be another one. And then there's, I think, 10 owners who really don't care. They just want this to be over with. Some owners fall asleep during owners' meetings. They're not very engaged. And then I think there's another dozen or so that are very concerned about all these business metrics. They're kind of stunned at Roger Goodell asking for nearly $50 million in a private jet, which he did in August, which Morton Schefter reported on Sunday. And so that's the receptive audience that Jones, I think, is playing to when he makes these arguments. Let's slow this process down. Let's look carefully not only at the contract, but let's look at Roger Goodell's performance and have a serious discussion about, which they didn't do in May, as I said. I mean, to me, that's stunning. You decide unanimously to re-up Roger Goodell with all the issues and problems that he's had in his leadership without having a single minute of discussion about what his performance is, and now you want to have it months later? I mean, to me, that's very telling.
Don, answer these questions. We're totally out of time. All of them, 10 seconds or less. Okay? Go ahead, Stugotz. All 10 seconds or less, please, Don, because we're out of time.
Don, when he says,
Sure.
I'm coming at you with everything I have, what do you imagine that looks like?
That's frightening. That's a lot of fury. That's David Boies, a legal heavyweight. That is a possible lawsuit, maybe even 2 lawsuits. And that's also, I'm going to make
time now.
So it's a lot of lawyers.
A lot of lawyers, a lot of blustering lawyers.
Okay.
Now, 10 seconds or less, please. What's going to happen next here?
Next year?
No, next here.
Next with this story.
Time! Next question. Give me the name of the owner who falls asleep in a meeting.
I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, it's Jerry Richardson. You're a failure. Get out of here, Van Natta. I'm not going to do that.
Dan's new water
Everyone knows it's Jerry
going to
Richardson.
pay for itself.
Guillermo, put on the poll. Is Jerry Richardson falling asleep during the meeting?
Loud snores, too. I imagine Jerry Richardson to be a loud snorer.
Dan Le Batard.
Called common sense reporting, Dan. Connect the dots.
Stugats.
I would not describe your sense as common.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugats on ESPN Radio.
This is something that I had not actually considered until you guys played it for me a couple of weeks ago from Draymond Green. This is what he said before last night's Celtics game. The idea of we need to stop referring to the owners of teams as owners. He said, quote, very rarely do we take the time to rethink something and say maybe that's not the way. Just because someone was taught that 100 years ago doesn't mean that the right thing today. And so when you look at the word owner, it really dates back to slavery. The word owner, master, it dates back to slavery. We just took the words and we continued to put them to use. Now, it doesn't bother me in any way that the owners of sports franchises are called team owners. But I do want to listen when somebody with a different perspective says something, especially if it's something that I simply had never considered. It's not something that had ever been a thought of mine before, to wonder whether the term owners is out of date in 2017 if you're running a largely black league and if you're, Draymond is coming from the unique perspective of an NBA player.
I don't want to question Draymond either. Mark Cuban did say we own equity, not people. Mm-hmm. And so it's just, I guess it depends on how you.
But I just think it's an interesting conversation, right? Like if all of these conversations that we have about is America too sensitive? Are women being too sensitive? Are minorities being too sensitive? Are white people being too sensitive? We're always accusing each other of being too sensitive. But are you willing to consider the viewpoint that here is something that you had not considered? I've been in sports for 30 years. I had not considered the idea of changing the language at the top of the pyramid. So Draymond Green presents it to you. Do you want to fight over that and call him sensitive, or do you want to consider it?
I'd like to consider it. I would certainly like to consider it.
But I just think all of these conversations would go a lot better if you're being brought a perspective that is different from your own. You find it illuminating. You can fight. You can fight for the status quo. You can fight for what's been. Oh, knock it off. You can fight this way, too, with these two fists.
Sure.
Oh, stop politically correct person. Oh, stop sensitive person. These two fists. Quit being so sensitive. Quit being politically correct. But those aren't the weapons that are linked to this fight.
Right.
Like, just, are you willing to consider the idea of changing your language? Yes or no?
But by definition, Dan, Mark Cuban owns the Dallas Mavericks. He does. And I think his response to Draymond Green is a fair one. Hey, I own a majority equity piece in the Mavericks. I don't own people. I don't think Dirk Nowitzki is calling him his owner.
You don't need to make it about this.
Yes, right. But also, by definition, he's a CEO of the Dallas Mavericks. Okay. What do you lose by not calling yourself an owner? If it bothers one person, is there anybody really holding on to that phrase? No, I must be called an owner.
Mike, how would we know? I'm not saying you're wrong, but when you have spent as much money as Mark Cuban spent, he might like to walk around and say, "Hey, I own the Dallas Mavericks."
But Stugats, what I'm asking you is to take it out of this particular conversation. I'm not interested in arguing whether Draymond is right or wrong, or whether we should actually change NBA owner name to NBA CEO. What I'm talking about is the general societal tension that we have now as it regards to language. And so, don't make it about the details here. Are you willing to consider changing the way that you talk about whatever? The N-word, homosexual slurs, whatever it is, are you willing to consider it? Because a lot of these fights start when white people are like, no, I want to talk the way that I want to talk. And then when you point that out to them, hey, well, but would you consider this or no? You won't consider this. No, I want to talk the way I talk. Then that's where we get stuck.
Correct.
So I'm asking you, not Mark Cuban, are you willing to consider changing your language? I'm not asking Mark Cuban whether he wants to be called an owner. I'm asking whether you'd be willing to change your language for Draymond Green.
Well, just for Draymond Green?
Yes.
Why do I have to do it just for Draymond Green?
Time to check in with NRL's leading football expert, Kian Fahey.
Alex Smith is the guy who has a wide receiver wide open in the end zone and will run straight out of bounds to take a sack because he's in field goal range.
For more of his work, visit pre-snap-ritz.com.
You can't predict yak.
Cheerios, mate, Cheerios.
ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Kian Fahey going to join us in just a second on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. I'll take your phone call, 786-456-4837. There are some stories that you just have to hear to believe. Season 2 of the acclaimed 30 for 30 podcast series is now available on the ESPN app and Apple Podcast. Here's your SportsCenter update. While the White House said President Donald Trump will host collegiate sports championship teams Friday in Washington, the South Carolina women's basketball team will not be among them as they've declined their invitation. The Arizona Cardinals have signed Larry Fitzgerald to a 1-year extension. And finally, cats use their whiskers to determine if they can fit in a certain space. Wow. For all the latest headlines and information, tune in to SportsCenter on ESPN Radio all throughout the day.
If you want to talk to Kian Fahey, the telephone number is 786-456-4837, 786-456-4837. If you have any football questions, can you explain to me, and thank you for making the time for us, Kian, Antonio Brown, I don't know who to compare him to. I don't know that I've ever seen anything quite like this, where at his size, he continues to be the most unstoppable receiver consistently in the league. Explain to me what's happening there, please.
I'm not really sure how to explain it. I think people in general overvalue height because they've seen most of the great receivers have been tall, but most of the great receivers haven't been great because they've been tall. They've been great because they've had great ball skills, they've run great routes, they've been physical through their routes, they understand how to adjust their routes to get open. And Antonio Brown does all of that extremely well. It helps that Ben Roethlisberger is his quarterback. Like we were talking about this last night on Twitter, where people were talking about the greatest receivers from the past couple of years, and I always felt a guy who gets majorly overlooked is Andre Johnson, because he always played for Gary Kubiak and Matt Schaub, and he never got touchdowns because of that. So Andre Johnson could do everything and was a relatively big guy too. But with Brown, because he's played with Ben Roethlisberger for most of his career, he's generally got good service. That's not to take anything away from him. He's still a great wide receiver. He just has to be dominant at kind of everything that he does, just because he can't rely on that size. But again, like if you talk, like there was a guy called Lima Swede who came into the league around the same time as for the Steelers with Antonio Brown. And he was basically the opposite of Antonio Brown. He was really tall, really athletic, really tall and really fast in a straight line, not necessarily that athletic. And he couldn't do anything that Brown could do, and Brown has just developed and refined the skill set over the years to become this great player.
Case Keenum, explain.
Adam Thielen? That's pretty much it. Adam Thielen and Stephon Diggs. Thielen is following that Antonio Brown path that we just talked about. Came in, is working his way up, and I said it on the podcast this week to Jacoby, and Jacoby kind of threw everything at me and stopped the podcast mid-flight and said that I was insane. But I think Adam Thielen has been the best receiver in football this year, and Stephon Diggs is an outstanding receiver as well, and they've rebuilt that offensive line, so everything's kind of set up for Case Keenum to be effective. Now, his production has been pretty good, but his performances haven't been great. Last week, he kept that Washington game close. He had 4 interceptable passes, 2 in a row late in the game that were awful throws, awful decisions. And his touchdowns, he had 4 touchdowns in that game. One was a really good play, one was a screen, one was a misdirection play where the tight end got wide open in the red zone, and one was a rolling pocket where Stephon Diggs was wide open. So the numbers there were a little bit misleading, but he's doing enough to help the Vikings win games, and that roster is just phenomenally talented.
So wait a minute. You're telling us that Diggs is not the best receiver on that team?
Not anymore, but Diggs is also outstanding. So Diggs is one of the better starters in the league, and this is why Keenum's been effective, because they can adjust the passes. They're always wide open. They create after the catch. And Kyle Rudolph's there as well. He's majorly inconsistent. He's not very good. But they have Jarius Rice. They have Michael Floyd. They have a bunch of other guys that they can use in different roles. But with Thielen and Diggs, they can both do everything. Like, a lot of the times you will hear coaches talk about building a complementary receiver group. They want to be congruent. They want to have a deep guy. They want to have a possession guy. In Thielen and Diggs, they've got guys who do everything, so they don't have to worry about what route they're called for or what role they're asked to play.
What did you say about Rudolph?
Yeah. He said Rudolph wasn't very good. Rudolph, inconsistent. He blasphemed against my beloved Kyle Rudolph. Adam, you're on with Kean Fahey. Go ahead.
Hi, Kean. I hear you compare Tyrod Taylor a lot to Alex Smith, but I'm interested in hearing you compare him to Russell Wilson because it seems that they have a very similar skill set.
I don't think they're similar at all, really. I think they run similarly, but we have a tendency to compare quarterbacks on physical abilities and often appearance, and really the primary thing you should compare guys on is the passing ability. And Tyrod Taylor is an extremely patient, oftentimes slow processor, and he will stay in the pocket for a long time, whereas Russell Wilson is always looking for the first route to get out of the pocket and is always willing to give up on a play instantly and just create in a scramble situation or a passing situation where he's outside the pocket.
Dan, you're on with Kean Fahey. Go ahead.
How important is offensive line players' footwork, and do we underestimate their pure athleticism?
I didn't hear that. What was it?
Offensive line play, footwork. Do we underestimate their athleticism, and how important is it?
Yeah, but I think we tend to, like, it's a cliche or whatever, but it's a true one where if the offensive lineman does his job, nobody notices him. And with the guys like Jason Peters, who, like, is 6'6" or 6'5", whatever it is, and Tyron Smith, and they move like wide receivers when they're out in space. If you look at Sammy Watkins' touchdown this week, actually, I think he had two, but one of his touchdowns this week was a screenplay where he lined up wide to the left, and Andrew Whitworth was on that side, and they ran a one-man screen where Andrew Whitworth was out in front of Watkins, and he was about 15, 16 yards downfield blocking two guys, never lost his balance, was never uncomfortable, located guys in space easily, and that's a 300-pound guy moving at about probably 12, 13 miles an hour, whatever it is.
So wait a minute. It was a one-man screen with Whitworth, and he just took out two people and never lost his balance?
Yeah, it was. I think they ran play action to the right side, and Watkins was on the left side, and that was the narrow side because they were on the left hash. So Whitworth broke out, and he was the only guy that went out, so nobody noticed it. So you got Whitworth on. I think the first guy was a safety or a linebacker, and then the cornerback came over, and he hit the safety and the linebacker in such a way that he knocked into the cornerback, and then Gurley just jumped into the end zone right behind him.
What's your problem with Carson Wentz, man?
I'm a hater.
Well, why?
No, I think the Eagles are a phenomenal offense. I think he's benefiting from being in that offense. I think he runs. His last month, he's been pretty consistent with his decision making, pretty consistent with his accuracy. I don't think he ever really does anything that's necessarily that high a degree of difficulty. Playing behind that offense. The one thing you've always got to be wary of with quarterbacks is the guys who are in beautifully designed offenses with great offensive line play. That's how you get a guy like Nick Foles. That's how you get that season from Josh McCown. It's how Ryan Fitzpatrick throws for 30-plus touchdowns. And you have to always be wary of that. So he's playing well enough right now. I don't think he's a spectacular player. I think it'll regress a little bit. But the thing we don't talk about there is Doug Peterson, like, they're running all these option plays and very simple designs and stuff that we would always say about Tyrod Taylor if it comes up, but not about Carson Wentz. And I just we need to point that out and say exactly what he's doing.
Can we do this as a show? I want to do this as a show. Let's. Can we all do our Kean Fahey impersonation at the same time? All of us. Hold on a second. On the count of three, all right? 1, 2, 3.
Fitzpatrick
throws for 30. Good, guys. That was good. Because that's the most Irish sentence ever spoken on our air, Disney Air. Can we have some sounders and some production here that would give off?
My family don't know anything about what I do.
No, hold on a second. Fitzpatrick throws for 30. Yes! Yeah! Trolls for 30. We're doing the wrong show and we're doing a bad show. Tony Baselli has texted Stugat, the former Frankenstein monster who played left tackle for the Jacksonville Jags, and he says, greatest question ever asked on your show, need more offensive line talk. He liked that question about offensive line footwork. If we're doing a show that's good for Baselli, we're doing a bad show.
This show finally paid off for Baselli.
Yeah. Blue, you're on with Kean Fahey. Go ahead, Blue.
Yeah, Ken, I'm an Atlanta Falcons fan. Numbers are telling me Matt Ryan is a top 5 quarterback, but I think the numbers are lying to me. And my eyes deceiving me?
I'm not sure what numbers he's looking at. His numbers aren't great this year. He's missing Kyle Shanahan a lot. Kyle Shanahan simplified everything for him, did exactly what I was just talking about with Carson Wentz, where he created these package plays, these clearly defined deep shots where guys were wide open, and now Steve Sarkisian is asking him to be the guy he's been for most of his career, like he was under Dirk Cutter, where he's this drop back passer, he's got to throw the ball down the field, he's got to diagnose coverages while the pass rush is coming around him, and he's like a top 10 quarterback. He's comfortably in that 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 range, and he's been there for his career. Matt Ryan's a guy you're happy to have, but you have to build around him and build around him properly.
Give me over the last month someone who's been criminally underrated. The last month of play.
Alvin Kamara for the Saints, and the Saints in general, everyone's kind of overlooking because we expect them to be that middling team that they always are. But Alvin Kamara has been used on screens a lot the past couple of weeks, and I'm not sure a single time has any of his offensive linemen blocked anyone, and he's still gained like 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, even 20 yards. He scored a touchdown against the Buccaneers where he had 3 blockers out in front, and all 3 of them were looking at him at times while he was running instead of trying to block anyone. So he just made 2 guys miss. One guy dragged him down, but he actually kept his balance and bounced right back up, never went down, and ran into the end zone. He's been phenomenal. Him and Mark Ingram together are really powering that offense and letting Drew Brees kind of relax for once because he's been carrying that offense for years.
Shorter answer and get us out of here on this one. A guy that everyone thinks is playing well over the last 4 or 6 weeks, and Kean's here to tell you, other than Wentz, not really. Not really.
That's kind of difficult. I don't really know if I have anyone.
Okay. All right, that's fine. All right, segment lasted 10 seconds too long. My bad.
Mm-hmm. Hey, girl, have you done something new with your scales? Using new moisturizer? Nice. It really brings out the hazel in your eyes. Oh, hold on. Are you using whitening strips, too? Your fangs look good, girl. Really good.
A really charming snake charmer? Surprising. What's not surprising? How much you could save by switching to Geico.
Wait, what? Have you been doing Pilates, too?
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Dan Batard.
You're announcing that you will not announce that they are a good team until they've won back-to-back.
Yeah.
But because you are taking away all of Kevin Durant's championships in your personal record book, you are never allowing him to win them back-to-back, even if they win them back-to-back, thus securing that you never have to identify them as a great team.
Correct.
Stugats.
I hate when I wander around in your head and see all the empty spaces and the tumbleweed blown around in it.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugats on ESPN Radio.
ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. You can find that on Periscope now. Guest on the Dan Le Batard Show. What?
No!
What?
You can never be subtle.
What? I can't. Couldn't resist. Guest on the Dan Le Batard Show appear via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Here's your SportsCenter update. With momentum gathering to reshape the one-and-done draft entry rule, NBA Commissioner Adam Silver and NBPA Executive Director Michelle Roberts met with the new commissioner on college basketball in Washington on Thursday. So, new commissioner for college basketball. Did you know that? Were you aware of that?
No.
There's a commissioner now for college hoops?
I did not know that.
Is it Billis?
I don't know.
Oh.
It's a commission.
Did you read? You read it wrong?
Maybe. Coach Luke Walton says rookie Lonzo Ball remains the L.A. Lakers starting point guard and that there's no talk of moving the number 2 overall draft pick to the bench.
That's
I haven't gone back and looked at it yet.
That's infuriating.
Did you know there's a new commission on college basketball? Did you know that?
Keep it moving, Stugats.
Is that a fine?
Yes.
I don't know if that's a fine for me, and now that's a fine for you for fining me for something that you shouldn't be fining me for.
That's only a fine for you, which now makes it another
this is
$1.
all getting confusing.
Yeah, you just blamed Roy, so that's another fine.
And finally, officials with the Naval Air Station Whidbey Island said one of their aircraft was involved in the obscene skywritings spotted in Okanagan County. In a statement, News Navy officials said the Navy holds its aircrew to the highest standards, and we find this absolutely unacceptable. Of zero training value, and we are holding the crew accountable. Photos of a giant dong in the sky surfaced when they were taken by a concerned mother who then passed the photos along to a local TV station.
Concerned mothers are the best. big fan of concerned mothers. I feel like it'd be okay to live your life by principles. America and the world would be a better place. I mean, we might be a little repressed, but concerned mothers is a good way to go and do things. We might be a little too careful, but we'd err on the side of caution.
For all the latest headlines and information, tune in the Sports Center on ESPN Radio all throughout the day.
Guillermo, put it on the poll, please. Would you be okay with concerned mothers, put it in quotes, being president of the United States? Seriously, I'd be good with giving concerned mothers power.
Yeah. I mean, concerned mothers, though, they take it to like a whole new level. Like, be careful what you wish for there.
Oh, no, I'm not saying that there wouldn't be drawbacks.
Rules would be very strict,
No, I understand there would be drawbacks on concerned mothers. I do, that's what I said, would be a little bit more repressed. There would be more rules. Yes, for sure.
That's what that means?
But I think it would come from, a loving place.
Why are you guys telling me I owe money? What's going on?
No, I'm just going to take all 15 of these dollars that Stugatz has put up here because he threw $10 at me before because he was frustrated, and we're going to put all of this in the fine bucket.
No change.
No change.
No change
for
today.
Stugatz.
All right.
No.
I think you guys got some apologizing to do on Danny Ainge, though.
I'll fire off the Stugatz was right image.
What? You will? What?
Stugatz was right? Holy Stugatz was right.
Wait. What's he right about?
Well, Danny Ainge hasn't been a bad general manager when it comes to drafting players. He's found some value, and he's often picking outside the top 10.
Well, that was unfair what I did to him when I just blurted Fab Melo as a low first-round pick at somebody who was a bust in Boston. I was actually thinking of Sullinger, but the body types are very different between Melo and Sullinger, and I was stumbling around looking for a name, and then I became self-conscious because I thought I was going to get the name wrong, and so I just blurted Fab Melo when I meant Sullinger, who was a top 10
Really
pick.
unfair of me to put you guys in that position to come up with a name right off the top of your head.
Well,
yeah. How's it feel?
Actually, Sullinger was a 21st overall selection, and at 21, Sullinger's probably giving you a nice contribution.
Oh, wow. So Sullinger wasn't – so I'm wrong again.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm wrong about Fab Melo and Jared Sullinger. All right.
Now, there's been Lucas Nogueiras, there's been R.J. Hunters, but at the same token, there's been a Marcus Thornton that he got in the second round, Terry Rozier, who looks like he might be a player, and Jaylen Brown didn't look like a good selection at 3 overall last year, but now he's certainly developed.
It's the top 5 picks you got to hit on, right? Those are the picks you really need to hit on. He hit on Jaylen Brown. He's hit on Tatum. He acquired the assets. He was patient with the assets, and then apparently he's used them on the right players.
I don't believe that Danny Ainge –
Hayward, maybe not.
I don't believe – what, really? You're going to do that to him on Hayward?
Well, I'm just saying that he used an asset to get – well, no, he was a free agent, so I guess that's a free agent signing. He used his assets to get Kyrie Irving. But I'm not doing that to Hayward. It's just, out for you.
You can make the argument that he uses assets to make Boston a destination for Gordon Hayward to make that look attractive.
Hold on a second.
Also signed a pretty good coach.
Hold on a second.
Winner.
Let's just rewind for a second because I'm not going to allow you guys to change the entire narrative around somebody after 14 games. And what I want to talk to you about that I do actually think is an interesting sports conversation is we've done this before, right? Josh McDaniels knew everything. Started whatever it was, 7-0, 8-0. Oh, my God, he's so brilliant. And then it fell apart. We make appraisals very quickly. The Vikings last year were 5-0. The Chiefs this year 5-0. We make appraisals really quickly about the job someone is doing and whether they're good at their job. The way that I think I'd like to discuss this is the idea of, first of all, I don't believe that Danny Ainge has a secret ability to see talent in players that allows him to make the unscientific thing like the draft something that he does better than other people. I don't think Danny Ainge sits next to Pat Riley and Greg Popovich and all of them are looking at the court and Danny Ainge is seeing something that other people are not seeing. I don't believe that that's an actual skill.
All right.
Danny Ainge, until recently, has been viewed as somebody that the reputation has been that guy is not special at his job. I am willing to say that he has done his job well now that we have in clear vision what it is that the fruits are. Now you can say that someone who has not historically been a good general manager has been good recently. But what I'd be willing to discuss with you is I think a good conversation point on this is it possible that a general manager isn't actually a good general manager, that they just go through periods where they're doing their job well and where they're doing their job poorly, that there is no such thing as a good general manager, that if I took Greg Popovich right now and I had him go run the Sacramento Kings, that he wouldn't be able to recreate it over there.
That if you gave a guy like Danny Ainge, you guaranteed him 30 years, he would have a good decade, a good 5 years, a bad 5 years, a good 5 years.
You'd be bad, you'd be there wouldn't be very many Spurs.
But the Popovich thing has been going on for like 20 years
Yeah, for
now.
20 years, they have only not had a winning record for something like 40 days.
But you'd concede that there's certainly bad general managers, right?
Well, but Henke was the one we all thought was the worst general manager.
But there were many people, they weren't the loud majority, but there was a minority there that was vocal about, hey, Henke's actually doing the right thing, trust the process.
I'm willing to concede that they're bad general managers. What I'm saying to you guys, though, is that the drafting of players is largely not a skill. We're doing a lot of lotto ball playing with general managing. The place that Danny Ainge did his job well, the place that I could point to and say, that was smart and well done, is, of course, trading his stars at the end for assets that then turned into Brooklyn failure and then netted him the ability to have a larger margin for error at the top of the draft, because he's less likely to miss on Tatum if he's in the top 5 than he is on Sullinger and Fab Melo in the 20s.
I think I'm with you on this. I think the Sixers are a perfect example of what we're talking about, because they hit on Embiid and they hit on Ben Simmons, but they did not hit on Okafor. They did not hit on Nerlens Noel, and we don't know about Markelle Fultz yet.
I'm not with you. You're changing the construct of what fandom is too much here. No, I'd like to be able to say that's a good general manager and a bad general manager.
So you don't think there's a conversation point to be had about the idea that just like players have good seasons and bad seasons, that good general managers can have bad seasons? Like, you're not willing to even consider it in those terms? Somebody is either a good coach. You understand what I'm asking?
Well, Mike,
you guys,
Ozzie
right?
Newsom's considered a great GM in the NFL, and he hasn't been. They haven't been great.
But
lately.
Ozzie Newsome was great for a long period of time, and then they gave a bunch of money to Joe Flacco, which wasn't very smart. And now look what's happened to everything around Ozzie Newsome. Ozzie Newsome was a good general manager over those 10 years that he was building the Ravens, and right now he might not be doing as good a job.
I mean, they're a game out of the playoff hunt, so their season's far from over.
No, but you're not willing to. You're not willing to entertain the possibility that a general manager can have a bad run.
Yeah, they can have
be good at his job.
Yeah, they can have unlucky runs. There could be injuries that people will blame them for. You can miss on a pick, but I'm not going to look at Golden State and say that's not a good general manager when they had an incredible draft and they signed Steph Curry to this amazing value deal initially.
Yes, but do you think they could recreate it? Do you think that they have a skill set? Do you think that the people who build that in Golden State have a skill set that if I told them right now, go run Sacramento, salary capped league, legislated equality, go run Sacramento, you're not going to have any real advantages in terms of money or anything?
Yeah, I have to believe that.
You believe they can recreate it wherever they go?
I believe if you put Pat Riley in charge of any front office in the NBA, he's going to find success.
Sacramento, Mike, really?
Yes, because he changes cultures. What was Miami before Pat Riley came over here?
Well, an easy place to recruit for the city. It was that. But Sacramento's a harder sell. I'm just interested in this conversation. I'm not saying I'm right about anything. I'm just asking you to consider the possibility that general managers, how recreatable this is, because I do believe that Belichick could do it. I don't believe I'm willing to extend it to anybody else.
Was Danny Ainge, though, in charge of that team? Was it the Pierce Garnett? He brought that all together, right?
Yeah, he traded with his friend Kevin McHale.
Well, that's what okay, but he built up a championship team. Fine, you have to have relationships. That's important, too. Riley has them.
Absolutely.
He built up a championship team and stripped it down and got a lot of value in return for some of those guys who were way past their prime.
Yes.
And he's done well with it. He's done well with those assets he's acquired.
Agreed.
Sports.
Yes, so much sports.
Very sporty. I love
so
it.
much sports.
15 years.
Money, 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 money.
The show today was supposed to be Method Man. Oh, no, that was yesterday's show. Method Man, Diplo, and...
Yeah, well, Method Man was today. But he was supposed to be yesterday.
Thank you.
And Bill Burr on, too.
Yeah.
Thanks to everyone listening on ESPN 1310. Oops, I'm reading the wrong ad. My bad.
All right. Fine.
That's not a fine. That's another $1 for you.
Come on, man.
There's football this weekend, and that calls for a glass of Larceny Bourbon. You're setting a record today for fines. You're at $16. Larceny Bourbon, let this weekend be the fun one for you.
Did you say the wrong company name? I think you did that at the front end there. That's another thing.
I was reading the wrong thing.
I mean, fines everywhere. You owe $5.
I want you to go back and listen to this segment when you go home.
Well, I own this segment.
When you go home, I want you to go back and listen to this segment and see how many different ways you played defense against me during this segment.
Really?
Yes.
I think I agree with you at one point.
No.
No.
You need to listen to the number of mistakes you made. You really do. Like I want you to tweet out at the end of the day today that you listen to this segment and just give us a count on the number of things that you did that were bad radio.
Okay. Let's think of all the things. Oh, I know one for sure. Wow, sorry about that.
Don Le Batard.
Guillermo, put it on the poll. Are you disturbed at all that Stugotz thinks extortion and blackmail are normal business practices?
Stugotz.
It has to drive you crazy because you are smart, you are well thought out, you are reasonable, you are balanced, and I just come in with blackmail, COB.
And they love you more.
Yep, spot on.
And I'm so envious. I want their love.
You're not going to get it.
Their love's important to me. I want the love of dumb people.
This is the Don Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
Mike, this is what I would like to do. Can you help me do it, please? I was thinking of something tonight, but I don't want you guys to have your weekend ruined, especially since the Marty party is blowing through here.
Oh, boy.
He texted. He said, I'm on my way, boys.
He's still here?
Yeah.
I got hats.
He's still around here somewhere, and so I don't want to ruin your evening. So at 1 o'clock, I believe that the segment we just did was the worst segment in the history of our show.
Right.
And I want Stugotz, and his fault and mine, I want Stugotz to live tweet about it or do a Facebook Live where he's listening to it and where he's breaking down like John Gruden would break down all the mistakes that were made and how they were made, because I believe we just got done doing what was the worst segment in our history.
That's because you lost the segment. I understand you feeling that way. I won it. But you want us to do this at 1 o'clock? I got a tea time today, man, but I will do it at 1 o'clock.
Well, I was trying to make it at 1 o'clock so that it wouldn't be 7 o'clock and ruin Mike's and your weekend plans.
Okay, so you want to do this at 1, Mike?
I'm pretty sure that segment already ruined my weekend plans.
Too sporty for you?
It was pretty bad. The whole thing was pretty bad.
I enjoyed it.
But speaking of pretty bad, Mike, I can't believe that we are again in this position. Would you please get me the name or the sound of that Buffalo Wild Wings host? Was his name Anthony Rizzo? No, his name is Rizzo of some sort, but it's not Anthony. That guy plays for the Cubs. Do not hit me with a fine.
I wasn't.
So that guy wanted to fight people at a Buffalo Wild Wings because I can't believe we're here again, Mike. We've got the chance. Do you remember the show that we did?
I sure as hell can believe we're here again.
Do you? All right. For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, last year on the air, as the Cleveland Browns were headed to 0-16, one day I got mad at this Cleveland radio host named Rizzo something or another Rizzo. And he was threatening to fight people who didn't have enough Browns allegiances that they would allow a parade celebrating their 0-16 season in Cleveland to be done by our radio show. And so we did a first segment where we raised a bunch of money because somebody was going to do the parade. They needed a budget for the parade. We raised that money in first segment to have the parade in Cleveland. It was all born of what this Rizzo guy did.
If you're one of the people out there that is planning a parade for 0-16, I will fight you. Come down and see me right now. I am at Buffalo Wild Wings. You're going to celebrate my misery for 4 months? That is the loserest of all loser moves I have ever heard in my life. How dumb is that? Who thinks that's a good idea?
So we need to get another parade going. Another 0-16 parade for the Cleveland Browns. What do we need to do right now to start planning that parade and now rooting for the Cleveland Browns to just lose the rest of their games?
Well, the parade is already being planned again. I'm glad by the same organizers that did it last time. Yeah. And if the Browns, and this is a big if the Browns happen to stumble into a win this season, then all the proceeds go to the Greater Cleveland Food Bank.
Okay, but Excellent. Wait a minute. Can we take the money we raised last year and just we push it?
No, we lost all the money that we donated last year. That went to the Cleveland Food Bank.
Right, that's where it goes, Dan, the charity.
Oh, no, but I want to, can we go back? Hold on. Can we go back to the Cleveland Food Bank and ask them for our money back so we can pour it back into this parade?
I'm pretty certain they've already used that money.
Yeah, we can't really take over someone else's parade.
But I can't believe we're in the same place again, where the Browns are again. I feel like we should go to the food bank and get our money back.
Yeah, they have a GoFundMe. And that's not how charity works either. Especially
I know, but
food.
we never intended to give to charity. We intended to make fun of the Browns, and then accidentally, because we raised money on behalf of this parade last year, we gave to charity accidentally.
Yeah, they hit us with the okie doke. We didn't get our money back. We were funding a parade.
Can this guy work at a discount this year? I feel like he owes us a little bit, doesn't he?
He's got a GoFundMe, GoFundMe.com/Browns.
No. That's not. I don't want his internet panhandling.
He's got a website. Well, that's how we did it last year. We sent everybody to the GoFundMe.
I know, but we can't do that now. I'm not giving that guy more money right now.
Right, so here's what I suggest. We wait until they actually lose all their games.
No, I want to build up to it. No, I want to be a rallying point. I want to be a beacon, a lighthouse.
You're just going to, those who don't learn from history are doomed to repeat it.
Same thing is going to happen. They're going to win a game towards the end of the year, get a home game against the Ravens, and whatever money we put into this thing is going to go to the food bank.
How many failed parades do you want to be a part of, Dan? Like, this is a strange thing you're doing.
Dan Le Batard.
I listened to Dan's show while I was in Florida last week, I listened every day, came in the afternoon. He's got a good show.
Stugats.
It's got a very good show. Oh, it's impeccably produced. Oh, goodness. That is like a training show for kids on how to produce radio.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugats on ESPN Radio.
ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Guests on the Dan Le Batard Show appear via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Another Friday, another Marty party here on the Le Batard Show. He's in studio with us. We love having him. Here's your SportsCenter update. With momentum gathering to reshape the one-and-done draft entry rule, NBA Commissioner Adam Silver and NBPA Executive Director Michelle Roberts met with a new commission on college basketball in Washington on Thursday.
Commission.
Not a commissioner.
Did you know there's a commission, though?
College basketball does not have a commissioner.
Coach Luke Walton says rookie Lonzo Ball remains the Lakers' starting point guard and that there's no talk of moving the number 2 overall pick to the bench. And finally, the average pasta serving size is 480% larger than what's recommended.
Yikes.
Yeah. For all the latest headlines and information, tune in the SportsCenter on ESPN Radio all throughout the day.
So because it's Friday and because everybody wants to be around a Marty party at all times, Marty Smith is just lingering around
I just
Miami.
randomly popped in here. They didn't know I was coming.
Lingering.
When are you leaving?
I mean, he's just hanging around. Mike, I just had something happen that's never happened to me before. I looked down at my right shoulder and I was like, man, I got some schmutz on there. What is that? It's like, it's clay. What is that? And I'm just like rubbing it off. And I realized it's because I hugged Marty and whatever his makeup. Whatever his makeup is, whatever his orange sludge
Get
is.
this, man. Like, I don't just have like one layer. I have the one layer, and then I go in for the second layer, which is like a different color.
Right.
And it's a damn train wreck. Like, I mean, I end up looking like an Oompa Loompa, and I just let it ride.
You're a great hugger, man.
What about this beard balm?
What about it?
Oh, but listen, I'm a big time hugger.
You going deep? You going deep? You and I going deep. We going tight. Dan does it. You tried to put one on Dan. No, he doesn't like that. Stuff.
Dan Le Batard is not a hugger.
No.
I try, and it's like he's like, ugh, get off.
No,
but I squeezed you for a good minute.
On.
Right?
You did. We had a big time bro hug.
It was warm. Yeah.
No, here's what happened. I will tell you what happened, just so that you know, so that you don't feel like I'm an inferior hugger and you don't judge my hugging abilities. Hold on a second. I'll tell you what happened. You're here with your producer, Jonathan Wiley, who has also
Happy
been
birthday.
here. Happy birthday to Jonathan Wiley.
Big fofo, baby.
He has been here as much as you have, lingering around our studios like a bad bathroom smell. And what happened is, so I shook his hand. And I've seen him just as much as you, and I met him at the same time as you, and I have the same relationship with him as you. I shook his hand, and then you came in for a hug, and I didn't want him to feel inferior in his relationship to me.
But it is inferior.
I know, but
it's not the same relationship.
So that's what happened. That was the awkwardness you felt, and then you smudged my shoulder with your orange goop face.
I really did ruin your shirt.
I mean, because you were just a very aggressive hugger. So it's not that I'm...
It makes some people really uncomfortable, like super uncomfortable. Yeah. But I'm like... give me a hug. I want a hug.
I think you make people very happy with hugs and everything.
But you have to read the person. Like, I'm going to give you a nice big embrace.
I don't hug Nick
hug.
Saban.
Right. Well,
you
exactly.
don't? I bet you Nick Saban would love to be hugged by you.
I'm going to try. I got the Iron Bowl next weekend. I'm going to try to hug him.
Have you noticed that Nick Saban is looking more every day like Mrs. Claus?
Ooh. I haven't studied him that closely, aesthetically.
He laughed the other day, and I saw flashes of her in his smile.
Is he wearing like that monocle? Does Mrs. Claus wear a monocle? No, she goes with the double.
Now that I'm thinking about it, I saw it too. Yeah.
Monocle is what the Monopoly guy.
He was laughing about the ripped jeans or something
That's
like that, right?
Yeah. And he smiled at the end. Guillermo, put it on the poll. When Nick Saban laughed about ripped jeans, did he have a hint of resemblance to Mrs. Claus?
What was the resemblance?
I don't know. I
From
can't
whence
tell
did it
you.
stem?
I don't know. It just his smile brought light into my life, and it made me think of Santa's Greatest Love.
Apologies. I make that mistake every year where I say the Monopoly guy has a monocle and he doesn't. He should.
You know who has a monocle is Mr. Peanut.
Yeah.
Oh, you're right. Yeah.
Mr. Peanut goes monocle.
You were
See,
right. I'm glad
the Monopoly guy goes with the double, right?
No glasses.
Monopoly guy's 2020.
Vision.
Yeah, he's 2020.
Well, who knew? How about that, actually?
Were you
boys?
worried when he said Mr. P, like where that was going? Or was that just me?
Mr. Peanut.
I am laughing at Marty's authority, the authority with which Marty thundered into this game and is like, no. You guys think you've got monocle game? Oh, watch this, Mr. Peanut. And he really just threw a trump card down. Like, what do you do? What is like if I say to you monocle, word association, go ahead. Where else
Mr.
you
Peanut.
going? I know, but I'm saying if I'm trying to beat
Monocle.
Marty, what can I beat him with? I can't beat him with anything.
Did any of those like goblins or ghouls or whatever they called those guys in Lord of the Rings, did they wear monocles?
Why would a goblin have a piece of corrective eyelid?
Is a goblin a ghost?
I actually think he's right about this.
Wait a minute, what?
Stugotz has my back.
Wait a minute,
There
what?
was a goblin that wore a corrective
Why would there?
eyelid.
There's a goblin who wore a monocle.
Goblins don't even have eyes.
This can't
Why
be
would
right.
they need a
This
corrective
can't
eye?
be- This can't be right.
me
Hold
look
on
it
a
up.
second. And I'm not sure are monocles worn? Aren't monocles just thrown
Mr.
up to
Peanut
your
wears his. Every time I'm eating peanuts and I look at that box, he's got that damn monocle on.
There is a goblin with a monocle.
That can't be
Yes!
true.
I mean, I'm looking at it right
That
now.
cannot be
I told
right.
y'all, look,
that
yeah,
cannot be right. Let me
Internet
see.
says it's
Let me
true. It's
see.
true.
Let me see. There cannot be
there's
a
all kinds of
goblin
it. Yeah, no, there is.
with a monocle in Game of Thrones.
Get some. His name's LARP.
LARP. What's up?
How about that?
Is that indeed Game of Thrones?
No.
I don't think that's Game of Thrones. I think you guys were just showing me puppets.
Can I full disclosure?
LARP is live action role play. That's what that stands for.
Oh,
So
that
this
doesn't
is-
sound very good for a family show, does it?
Yeah, so that's just somebody out there that likes to play in fantasy role-playing games that
God,
decided to make their goblin
I didn't
wear a
do
monocle.
anything.
You read the internet wrong.
I just said I saw a goblin with a monocle.
Although, in
And I
your
did.
defense, LARP does sound like a goblin's name.
Thank you.
So, did you guys see? I don't know if you guys saw this. There was a fan who wrote me on the Twitter and said that they went to see Marty Stewart in concert last night. And Marty Stewart is this amazing, famous musician. He was in Johnny Cash's band as a kid. All right, it's Marty Stewart. And he has one of the most tremendous mullets in the history of the great militia. This guy went to see Marty Stewart last night at some honky-tonk, and he started yelling, "Marty Party, Marty Party," because he had heard the Marty Party on the Le Batard show, and he got the whole section hollering Marty Party. Because of you clowns. How about that?
Right. That didn't have anything to do with what we were talking about.
No, it doesn't, but I just thought about it.
All right, but that's good that your thoughts sometimes
Did
come
I include you guys on that tweeter or not? I meant to.
It really doesn't matter. Oh, look at Marty's got to go to the bucket of death. Marty's got to go to the bucket of death.
By the way, I lost last week because I had the Chicago Bears. Can you lose in a more ridiculous way than the Chicago Bears
Then the
lost
John
last
Fox
weekend?
challenge
John
that
Fox.
crushed you. The
Unbelievable.
John Fox challenge. So now, thank
Come
you,
on, Foxy.
thank you, Dominique. We appreciate you coming in here with the bucket of death.
All right, Dominique, here we go, baby.
All right.
Who'd you pick?
Two monocles together, glass sizzle.
Does you should bring the monocle back. Do you have corrective eyewear? Did you ever get LASIK?
Marty, pull it up. Let's see. Oh, the Patriots.
I will keep it.
Mexico City.
that's a
Mexico
neutral
City.
field, neutral field.
7-point favorite. They're 7-point
Who are
favorite.
they playing?
Oakland.
Raiders.
Oakland.
You're throwing it back?
No, he's got it.
You're good.
He's keeping
good.
it.
Smart.
All right,
Brady,
Marty
man.
Smith, thank you. Marty Party has begun. Thank you, sir. Always love having you around.
I love you guys. You guys are friends.
Love
Money,
you too,
money,
man.
money, money.
I loved you before I even met you, to be honest with you.
We all
I
did.
appreciate that.
We all did.
You can listen to the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugats 10 to 1 Eastern on ESPN Radio, and you can watch on ESPNU.